Kenjaku is probably one of our favorite antagonists. He's cold and calculating, plus he reminds me of Aizen due to his mastermind-level planning. So today, we'll be breaking down the ancient sorcerer and everything we know about him so far. Kenjaku's past lives and personality. Like Master Tengen, Kenjaku has been alive for a long time. It's hard to be sure exactly how long though. For example, he was able to make a contract with Druv Lokdwala. Druv was an active sorcerer during the Civil War of Wa, which ended around the year 180. Fun fact, the Civil War of Wa is the oldest war that has been documented in Japan. Anyhow, due to his innate technique, Kenjaku has lived several prolific lives. He's been a mother, an infamously evil sorcerer, and now Suguru Geto. And to truly understand Kenjaku, it's important to look at the different bodies he's inhabited. During the 1600s, Kenjaku used an unknown sorcerer's form. He made binding vows with several other sorcerers, one of them being none other than Hajime Kashimo. These vows would go on to be the basis for the Culling game. However, we'll get to that later. What's significant is that Kenjaku has been recruiting sorcerers for a while. His next infamous identity was Noritoshi Kamo. There's no real timeline for when he took over that man's body though. Either way, Noritoshi was remembered as the most vile of sorcerers. Why, you may ask? It's all due to his involvement with the death paintings. Even later on, Kenjaku continues to show curiosity with cursed spirits and humans. Just to recap, the death paintings are 9 cursed objects created from the blood of a human and cursed spirit. One could argue it's what led to Yuji's birth, though that is a different beast entirely. Or rather, it's a topic we'll dive into soon. Ultimately, Kenjaku's fascination leads him to inhabit the body of Suguru Geto. In fact, Geto's technique, cursed spirit manipulation, actually sets up the Culling game. Kenjaku utilizes it to cast Mahito's idol transfiguration. Obviously, this was the switch needed to bring back reincarnated sorcerers. If anything, Kenjaku planning this only further illustrates one thing. He's a big picture thinker. Similar to other modern gen villains, Kenjaku plans things in advance and with precision. He even tells Yuji about the new world to come, a world created by him with one sole purpose: optimizing cursed energy. He developed a bond with Mahito and knew he could use Mahito's technique. That being said, Kenjaku also proves to be cautious. He doesn't enact any of his Culling game plans until Satoru Gojo is sealed, which is because the curse user knows he can't kill Gojo. Either way, it once again proves that he's a smart tactician. But besides that, Kenjaku is also resourceful, at least with the bodies he picks. Though he has to be due to his ridiculously powerful body snatching innate technique. He couldn't afford to inhabit a body that isn't furthering his goals. That isn't to say Kenjaku isn't lax. There's been several instances where Kenjaku was seen playing board games, which is interesting. He's so result-oriented, but still finds enjoyment in simple pleasures. Besides that, Kenjaku also has a rather casual attitude. For example, he compliments Yuji during their fight. Even I'm impressed. Sukuna's vessel is tough. Though, Kenjaku knows how powerful he is, so maybe it's all a game to him. That being said, he's also lax during his bout with Gojo. Kenjaku even asks the Six Eyes user if he's letting his mind wander. Unfortunately, Kenjaku doesn't seem to show the same casual nature to cursed spirits. According to the Jujutsu Kaisen official fanbook, he is less cordial with them. However, it's more than that. He looks down on cursed spirits, but the feeling is mutual. Either way, Kenjaku treats his relationship with spirits like a professional one. It's a bizarre temperament to have considering his fascination with combining cursed spirits and humans. Speaking of humans, let's get into Kenjaku's curse technique and how that relates to his character. But before that, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on to never miss an upload, and smash that like button for some plot armor today. Innate Technique. Firstly, there is no official name for his ability. All we really know is how it works and the fact that his scar is a part of it. Let me explain. Each body Kenjaku has possessed has shared one feature. They all have a visible forehead scar. Now, why would they all have that distinct trait? Well, the answer is rather simple, and relates to Kenjaku's technique. The scar cannot be healed and is a binding vow. In a way, it's similar to the way incarnation works. Both methods allow the sorcerer to essentially overwrite the original consciousness. Although we've yet to know what the exact conditions of the binding vow are, there is a stark difference between his technique and incarnation. In Kenjaku's case, he's able to jump between multiple bodies. Plus, he can utilize the innate technique of the body he's in. But that isn't all. Kenjaku can manually remove the top of his head in order to expose his brain. This is most likely used when switching bodies. Regardless, Kenjaku did display this ability to Gojo. It doesn't seem to cause Kenjaku any pain either. However, it does show that his only physical form is that of a brain. While his brain does look normal, there is one striking difference. It has a mouth. but it doesn't appear that he can talk through it, so the purpose of it is unknown. Either way, it could symbolize how intelligent this ancient sorcerer is. After all, he's a literal brain now. That being said, this technique is also undetectable. In Gojo's own words, "My 6 eyes tell me you're Suguru Geto, but my soul knows otherwise." His comment proves that Kenjaku is practically indistinguishable from the original body, which explains why he was able to go undiscovered for so long. Yes, each body has a unique facial scar, yet the merge between their body and Kenjaku's brain is seamless enough it can fool the 6 eyes, which only goes to show exactly how strong the ability is. Regardless, Choso can recognize him as Noritoshi. That aside, a technique like this has the potential to take over a higher-up's body. Granted, he doesn't need to do that since Kenjaku was able to manipulate the current power structure instead. Regardless of what his technique can do, there is a caveat to it. At least with the current body he's in. Just before Kenjaku seals Gojo, Geto gets temporary control of his body, if only for a moment. Despite being dead for several years, he was able to choke Kenjaku. It's likely that Kenjaku never experienced any disobedience from the body he was in prior to that. Once again, this only further proves how strong his technique is. He can literally suppress the dead sorcerer's body in order to exert his will. Although, the mannerisms of the dead sorcerer can still come through. During the Shibuya arc, Kenjaku laughs because he notices that he's speaking like Geto. So perhaps the body itself retains more than just the innate technique. This unique trait is likely a benefit to Kenjaku. Mimicking the body's mannerisms means he can masquerade as them more effectively. There is a final feature to his innate technique though. He can access the memories of the deceased sorcerer. For example, Gojo asks him if he remembers who beat up Geto before he was killed. The body-snatching sorcerer is able to access those memories and see exactly what happened to Geto. Considering he can appear as anyone he wants, he's a double threat with this power. Because he once acted as Noritoshi, it's very likely he's learned their secrets. After all, each big family passes down their innate technique and how to use it. It's rather sensitive information too, so much so that it isn't shared outside of the big families. Plus, some information is only kept within the family themselves instead of being shared with the big 3. So it's likely Kenjaku knows some Kamo family secrets, which is dangerous considering all of this intel relates to their techniques. And as any reader knows, the big 3 families only hold power due to their abilities. The Shibuya Incident. We can't talk about Kenjaku without mentioning this event. The Shibuya Incident is one of the worst acts of Jujutsu terrorism within Japan. Jujutsu society had to deal with curses and curse users while it was all extremely chaotic. Multiple lives were at stake, although there was only one end goal. Kenjaku wanted to seal away Gojo. Why? Well, to the ancient sorcerer, Gojo is the only one capable of stopping him. With his nemesis locked away, he has free range to do evil. That being said, this fateful night was none other than October 31st, Halloween. On that day, multiple sorcerers were sent to the scene of a large screen around Shibuya. While there were many people involved, we'll just focus on Kenjaku and his actions. It takes time to process Gojo within the prison realm, so it can't be moved. This means that out of Kenjaku's group, someone needs to stay with it. The ancient sorcerer himself decides to guard it, and because of that, there's a window to steal the cursed object. While several other sorcerers do intercept Kenjaku, no one can stop him. Even powerful people like Mei are forced to retreat. Ultimately, Kenjaku interrupts the fight between Aoi Todo, Yuji, and Mahito. At first, it seemed as if he would save his comrade. In fact, Kenjaku asks Mahito, "Shall I save you?" That's when things go from bad to worse. Yuji attempts to rush Kenjaku, but he's easily rebuffed by the ancient sorcerer. Then, in desperation, Mahito attacks Kenjaku, which is another bad move. The ancient sorcerer still has control of Geto's body and technique, cursed spirit manipulation. This ability allows the user to absorb and then use cursed spirits. So what does he do? He absorbs Mahito. While other sorcerers do arrive to help confront him, it isn't enough. Kenjaku is able to easily fight them off and use idle transfiguration to begin the Culling game. The connection to Yuji. While on the topic of family, it's time to really break down Kenjaku's relationship to Yuji. The reveal wasn't long ago, but it's still incredibly important. Through a flashback, we learn that Kenjaku was inhabiting the body of Yuji's mom, which is strange. We've gone over the fact that Kenjaku only covets bodies he can use for personal gain. Yuji's mother doesn't exactly fit into that mold. As far as the audience knows, she doesn't have an innate technique. Not to mention, this means she would have had to die. No doubt it was before Yuji was born. In fact, we can even explain why. For one, Kenjaku was present when Yuji was just a little baby. But more importantly, Kenjaku himself recognizes Yuji as his own child. When he escorted Sasaki, an old friend of Yuji's, out of the Culling game barrier, he told her, "Thank you for getting along with my son." This comment does two things for us. First, it confirms Yuji's relation to Kenjaku, and second, it shows a different side to him. Up until that point, Kenjaku was seen as mostly a calculating puppet master, so the care he shows for Yuji is bizarre. If using Yuji's mom was a part of his plan, why grow an attachment to him? Why even have a child to begin with? Personally, I think it all goes back to his cursed womb experiments. Kenjaku has a morbid curiosity revolving around humans and cursed spirits. He dedicated some of his long life to it, so it only makes sense that it's something he's kept an interest in, especially factoring in his involvement in Yuji's life. His goal wasn't recreating the cursed wombs, but something better. Kenjaku himself even acknowledges that what I create does not exceed the bounds of my own potential. Perhaps to Kenjaku, Yuji could achieve his goal. That aside, it's unknown what purpose Kenjaku has for Yuji. We know he's a master manipulator and planner. Obviously, he wouldn't create a child without a deeper reason, especially not one that was abnormal before becoming a vessel. It's possible this may play into his culling game. After all, Kenjaku doesn't do anything that isn't necessary. It's unlikely he decided to just settle down and enjoy domestic life. With that being said, why don't we take a look at Kenjaku's exact plan for the culling game? What is the culling game? We've already explained what Kenjaku wants to achieve. However, we haven't gone into the why of it, nor what the culling game is. There are multiple possible outcomes to Kenjaku's endgame. Regardless, he chose utter chaos to achieve his means. In fact, it's even something Kenjaku acknowledges. The answer is always flickering darkly in chaos. This suggests the game itself isn't his goal, but a way to reach it. He needs the hectic nature it brings, which is a way to bring about his objective. Jujutsu Society will be too busy dealing with the cursed spirits around Tokyo and reincarnated sorcerers, so no one would have the resources nor the manpower to stop him. That being said, his plan is rather complex and convoluted. The culling game is simply a fight to the death. Using Mahito's idol transfiguration, Kenjaku was able to activate sorcerers. Well, two types of sorcerers. One is a group that had their brains rewired to use cursed energy, and the second variety are non-sorcerers who consumed a cursed object. Instead of simply being capable of using cursed energy, these individuals are incarnated sorcerers. It's similar to Yuji and Sukuna's situation, except that Sukuna isn't overriding Yuji's consciousness. Unfortunately, that is exactly what incarnation does. But why create sorcerers out of ordinary people? Well, the reasoning is rather simple. There aren't many sorcerers to begin with, so adding so many more sorcerers is bound to make Jujutsu Society unstable. But perhaps the biggest reason can be best explained by Master Tengen. His objective is to force the evolution of all human beings throughout the land of Japan. But how would he achieve this? According to Tengen, Kenjaku could merge him with humanity, and this could be done even without Tengen's cooperation. Due to his current state, Master Tengen is vulnerable to Geto's technique. Speaking of Tengen, he also knows the rules and explains them. The 8 original rules work in Kenjaku's favor. Firstly, it forces the new vessels and freshly minted sorcerers to participate. There's no way they couldn't. Besides that, Kenjaku himself is not the game master. An unknown person is in control. But that doesn't mean Kenjaku cannot influence the game. Not acting as game master must have some advantage for him. After all, he's a big picture thinker. But the biggest advantage for him is the fact that he's rigged the game, forcing other players to kill one another. Also, Kenjaku is under the assumption players can't communicate due to the colony bounds, which would mean there would be no way to work together and create additional rules. Obviously, Kenjaku wants to complete his ritual without much resistance. Either way, the culling game was planned by Kenjaku and serves a specific purpose. However, what's in store for Kenjaku? His future. We've discussed what the culling game is and why Kenjaku enacted it, yet we haven't examined what this ancient sorcerer may do going forward. For example, Maki Zenin is able to move to different colonies without much effort. She lacks cursed energy, so she's not even recognized by the barriers. Surely this wasn't anticipated by Kenjaku when he created the areas. It's obvious they were meant to stifle communication between players. Ergo, Maki's status as a non-player is a glitch. Although, it's plausible Kenjaku prepared for players to move through the colonies. The Angel, otherwise known as Hana Kurusu, can naturally navigate the barriers as well. Considering Kenjaku made a contract with her, it's likely he knew about her ability. He may not have seen it as an issue. So what can Kenjaku do about this? Once again, there's multiple options. While he isn't the game master, Kenjaku still has influence. He already has the higher-ups in his hands. The very society of Jujutsu is at his feet. So he could very well bring in other players to neutralize Maki. Not only does it solve his problems, it's also taking down 2 birds with 1 stone. taking Maki out and bringing new players in. Kenjaku needs sorcerers for his merge with Tengen, so it wouldn't hurt to have more. Regardless, Kenjaku looks at the big picture. I doubt he'd let Maki go unchecked for long. Merging with Tengen is his ultimate goal to achieve what the death paintings couldn't. Before that though, Kenjaku has to face two powerful sorcerers, Choso and Yuki Tsukumo. They'd both put up a fight. Yuki is a special grade sorcerer, while Choso still has a grudge against his creator, Kenjaku. Besides that, protecting Tengen is the most important thing for everyone, so it's likely Maki could join that fight too. She's immune to passing through the colonies, and she has a fully realized heavenly body. While it's unlikely she could defeat Kenjaku, she could certainly delay him. Either way, Kenjaku will have to work extremely hard to achieve his endgame. And sadly, we've come to the end of Kenjaku Explained. Hopefully you enjoy his character as much as I do. I'm Jack Stansbury. Peace out.